persons having any business before this Honourable Court of the Supreme Court of the Northern Territory, now draw nigh and give your attention, and you shall be heard. God save the Queen. Please be seated.
Your Honour the Administrator, Judges, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this special sitting of the full Court of the Supreme Court of the Northern Territory. We gather for the presentation of the Commission by Her Honour Justice Kelly and to welcome Her Honour to this court. I say to you that there are apologies from Justices Angel and Mildrum, who are both indisposed, I think is the way to put it. I'm a little concerned that these things come in threes. I'm somewhat worried about who's next.
Chief Justice, I have the honour of announcing that I have received from His Honour the Administrator a commission appointing me as a Judge of the Supreme Court of the Northern Territory.
I invite you to take your affirmation of office before His Honour the Administrator.
Justice Kelly, I have by my commission appointed you a judge of this court. Before you may take your seat upon the court, you are required to take and subscribe before me the judicial oath, and I invite you to do so now.
I, Judith Clare Kelly, do solemnly and sincerely promise, affirm and declare that I will bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, her heirs and successors according to law, that I will well and truly serve her in the office of Judge of the Supreme Court of the Northern Territory of Australia, and that I will do right to all manner of people according to law, without fear or favour, affection or ill will.
Will you subscribe the judicial oath?
Commission to the Honourable Judith Clare Kelly. Know ye that, reposing full trust and confidence in your loyalty, learning, integrity and ability, I, Thomas Ian Pauling, Officer of the Order of Australia, Administrator of the Northern Territory of Australia, acting with the advice of the Executive Council of the Northern Territory of Australia, in pursuance of Section 32(1) of the Supreme Court Act 1979, do by this Commission appoint you, Judith Clare Kelly, Senior Counsel, learned in the law for the Northern Territory, to be a Judge of the Supreme Court of the Northern Territory of Australia, from and including the 12th day of August in the year of our Lord 2009, to have, hold, exercise and enjoy the said office of Judge of the Supreme Court of the Northern Territory of Australia under and subject to the provisions of the Supreme Court Act 1979 as amended from time to time, during good behaviour with all rights, powers, privileges, advantages and jurisdiction thereto belonging to or appertaining. Given under my hand and the public seal of the Northern Territory of Australia on the 12th day of August in the year of our Lord 2009, and signed by His Honour the Administrator and also by Her Honour's command by Her Honour the Attorney-General for the Northern Territory.
Master, please place the Commission and the affirmation of office with the records of the Court. Mr Solicitor-General, on behalf of the Attorney-General, for your move.
May it please the Court, on behalf of the Attorney, I congratulate Your Honour Justice Kelly on your appointment to the Supreme Court of the Northern Territory. Your Honour's family has a long-standing connection with the Northern Territory. Your Honour's maternal grandfather was a carpenter who came to Darwin by camel train in 1912. He enlisted during the First World War and went to Europe as part of the Australian military forces. He met and married an English bride there and returned to Darwin after the war. Before leaving, your grandfather and his mates had entrusted their life savings to a Darwin lawyer for safekeeping. Upon your grandfather's return from the war, he found that the lawyer had absconded to Singapore with all his money. which of course makes Your Honour's subsequent choice of career an interesting one. Anyway, this turn of events required your grandfather to work a tin mine in Marranboy in order to build some capital. And today we can only imagine the culture shock that this must have caused to his English wife, although your grandmother is reported to have said in later years that had it been humanly possible to walk out of Marranboy, she would have done so. They eventually returned to Darwin, where your grandfather went on to build many of its iconic structures, including Lyons Cottage, the main block of the Smith Street shopping centre, and one of the gun emplacements at East Point. He also established a sawmill and a brickworks at Winnellie, which was the precursor to the Winnellie Industrial Estate. His name was Harold Snell, and Snell Street in Winnellie is named in his honour. Your Honour's mother, Dr. Valerie Fletcher, who is in court today for this happy occasion, was born in the old Darwin Hospital when it was located at Doctor's Gully. She was evacuated from Darwin to Queensland during the Second World War, and there met and married a Darling Downs farmer. Your Honour was born in Queensland, but it's all right, you're here now. After matriculation, Your Honour commenced study towards combined degrees in Arts and Law at the University of Queensland. After completing the arts component of your degrees, Your Honour decided that your true vocation was teaching and undertook a Diploma of Education. Your Honour came to the Territory to take up a position at the Bachelor Area School in 1977. And it was there that Your Honour was first exposed to the unique culture of the top end and its peculiar dispute resolution mechanisms. If Your Honour came into dispute with a male member of the community, it was resolved by that person punching your husband, Matthew. Despite this, or perhaps because of it, Your Honour remained in Bachelor for 6 years until 1983, when you returned to the University of Queensland to complete your studies. Your Honour was awarded the degree of Bachelor of Laws with honours in 1985 and returned to Darwin with the firm Morris Fletcher and Cross. Your Honour became a partner of that firm in 1990. Your Honour was called to the Bar in 1996 and joined William Foster Chambers, where you remained until your appointment. During your time at the Bar, Your Honour was recognised as having one of the finest minds in the Territory legal profession. Your Honour's skills were reflected in a large and busy practice, and your appointment as the first Senior Counsel for the Northern Territory under the new system. Your practice had a commercial focus, but Your Honour conducted cases over a broad range, including personal injury, professional negligence, native title, administrative law, administration of probate, equity, and building and construction. It's a pleasing coincidence that Your Honour has taken the oath of office before His Honour the Administrator, as you had the privilege of appearing before His Honour, appearing as junior to His Honour rather, in his former capacity as Solicitor-General in the long-running Yulara native title claim. In addition to Your Honour's practice as a barrister and solicitor, Your Honour has held appointment variously as Vice President of the Northern Territory Bar Association, member of the Law Society Council, a member of the Northern Territory Law Reform Committee, member of the National Corporations and Securities Panel, and as chairperson of various appeal boards. Your Honour has all the qualities required for judicial office. I've already made reference to Your Honour's intellect. Socrates said many years ago that 4 things belonged to the good judge: to hear courteously, to answer wisely, to consider soberly, and to decide impartially. That observation holds true today, and Your Honour enjoys those qualities. Your Honour is also industrious, some say to the point of frenzy. A solicitor once described working with Your Honour in full flight as akin to being locked in a cupboard with the Energizer Bunny. That colleague should remain nameless unless there be reprisals from the bench. But I am able to inform Your Honour that his initials are John Stirk. Your Honour is also inventive and ingenious. We well remember Your Honour's fitness program from several years back, which involved Your Honour drinking your nightly glass of wine while riding on an exercise bike in front of the television. Most importantly, Your Honour has the confidence of your former colleagues. Public confidence in the legal system requires the best and brightest to accept judicial appointment. It's only on that ground that the profession, and ultimately the general public, may be satisfied that the justice system is based upon the values of independence, impartiality, professionalism and intellectual rigour, and Your Honour's appointment satisfies that cause. We know that Your Honour necessarily makes certain sacrifices in taking appointment, but we have no doubt that Your Honour will find both intellectual and personal satisfaction and dignity in the work of the bench. Your Honour's husband Matthew and son Jack have been frequent visitors and good friends to the Bar during Your Honour's time there. We wish Your Honour and Matthew and Jack all the best as you enter this new phase of your lives. May it please the Court.
Thank you, Mr. Solicitor. Mr. President of the Northern Territory Bar Association.
May it please the Court. On behalf of the barristers of the Northern Territory, I congratulate Your Honour Justice Kelly on your appointment as a Justice of the Supreme Court of the Northern Territory. The appointment of a new judge is a significant event, and it's entirely appropriate that the business of the Court comes to a stop today, just for a brief while, to welcome you as the new judge and to publicly acknowledge your achievements in the law as a solicitor, counsel and senior counsel. Your Honour's appointment continues the practice of appointment to the bench from the ranks of what is called the local bar. Of course, there have been appointments in the past from the Northern Territory Bar, and specifically since self-government, I can refer to Justices Maurice, Norman, Raleigh and Southwood. So Your Honour's certainly not alone. I fully expect that the local bar will continue to attract barristers and assist them to develop to the level of legal skills and experience required to equip them to be appointed future judges of this court. I checked the bar roll yesterday, Your Honour, and went back many, many pages, becoming concerned that I might be having to inform the court today that you've forgotten to sign on for the start of your bar career. However, I am able to confirm that Your Honour did in fact sign the bar roll in July 1996. It seems extraordinary that the intervening 13 years have passed so quickly, and obviously more so a year or thereabouts since you were appointed as senior counsel. Now, as we stand at the end of your career as a barrister, it seems that you were plucked from our little group prematurely, and that you still had, as the Americans say, a ways to go. As a barrister, you were an excellent colleague, intelligent, well-researched, hard-working and tenacious. Of course, you are allowed to retain the first three qualities as a judge, but tenacity is no longer an obvious part of the job description. That's a great shame, really, but that's life for those who go to the bench. And speaking of life on the bench, I know that the new judge, often called the junior judge, generally gets co-opted into one or other court-related committee. The Supreme Court Library Committee, the Northern Territory Council for Law Reporting, the Supreme Court Rules Committee, Management Committees, and so on. I won't betray my ignorance of the large amount of out-of-court work done by the judges by speculating on all the other committees that you might be co-opted into. However, Your Honour, I urge you to refuse all such involvement, at least refuse it until you take charge of the most important of all the committees, the Supreme Court Judges Veranda Committee. Now, we all know that the best kept secret venue in Darwin is the Supreme Court Veranda, and it's also been rumoured that Your Honour has secret plans to bring it to life as a big social venue. The committee that I referred to doesn't exist yet. But at a rough guess, it will exist by this Friday afternoon. In any event, I must warn your fellow judges, particularly any of those who may be frugally inclined, to expect an increase of about tenfold in your social club levy. It's been loosely said, Your Honour, that you are replacing Justice Thomas. I frankly don't see it that way at all. It's true that Your Honour's appointment was made on account of Justice Thomas's retirement, but it must be clearly understood by all of us that each judge has a unique mix of qualifications, attributes, skills and experience which makes him or her eminently suitable to serve as a judicial officer. And this court now has the considerable advantage of securing your own unique mix of skills. Sir Robert McGarry, in his book Miscellany at Law, used to tell his students that the most important person in the courtroom is the litigant who is going to lose. he explained it in this way. Naturally, he would usually not know this, that is the fact that he's about to lose, until the case is at an end. But when the end comes, will he go away feeling that he's had a fair run and a full hearing? One of the important duties of the courts is to send away defeated litigants who feel no justifiable sense of injustice in the judicial process. Justice in full takes time, but it's time well spent. Your Honour, we believe that you will make time for all those who come into your court, whether as parties, witnesses or lawyers. It's a great thing for the Territory legal and wider community that you have accepted this appointment, and on behalf of Northern Territory barristers, I wish you Honour well for the important years ahead of you. Now please the Court.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President of the Northern Territory Law Society.
Your Honours, Your Honour Justice Kelly, on behalf of the Law Society of the Northern Territory and its members, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you as the newest judge of the Supreme Court of the Northern Territory. As the learned Solicitor-General has detailed, Your Honour's grandfather came to the Territory in 1912 and your mother was born in Darwin. In that sense, Your Honour brings a pedigree to the office surpassed only by the former Chief Justice and Administrator, His Honour Osman Ash, and I'm very pleased to see His Honour is in attendance at your swearing-in today. Your Honour has earned the respect of the profession for your intellectual rigour as an advocate and advisor. You're renowned for your ability to grasp difficult concepts and issues and to produce a considered, inherently sensible response for the benefit of those who seek your counsel, and to do so quickly. Sadly, the reward for such efficiency in disposing of problems is to be the beneficiary of an ever-growing multitude of new ones, and Your Honour's capacity for work is also a measure of great respect amongst the profession. It's rumoured that Your Honour has even passed over on offers of glasses of champagne with good friends in favour of work, a truly committed stance, if I may say so. The Law Society in particular has had the benefit of your advice and counsel in the most sensitive area of discipline of legal practitioners. Your Honour has never failed to deliver a balanced, sensitive but firm approach to the issues at hand, at times in the face of extraordinarily difficult and trying circumstances. It's a quality that I'm sure Your Honour will need to draw upon frequently in the course of your judicial life. The speed at which Your Honour has operated for some time now has been a feature of your practice as a barrister. It's been matched, if I may say, by the rapid rate of Your Honour's elevation amongst the ranks of the profession. Your Honour was appointed Senior Counsel last year. I had the pleasure of working alongside Your Honour in a trial on the day of that announcement, and it's a special privilege to also be able to acknowledge this deserved appointment as well. I did discover, however, that Your Honour does not hold the land speed record for promotion from Senior Counsel to Judge. That honour goes to His Honour Justice Gummo of the High Court, who was appointed Queen's Counsel in New South Wales in 1986 and literally days later was appointed to the Federal Court. Another aspect of Your Honour's character which is held in high regard by the profession has been your encouragement of and your confidence in the younger members. There are many aspects of legal practice that are especially daunting for young lawyers. One particular aspect is the universally held fear of being exposed as ignorant on some fine point of the law, and even some less fine, frankly obvious points as well. That fear usually reaches its climax just as the instructing solicitor sits down for the first conference with the barrister and awaits the critique of the brief and the lovingly crafted observations to counsel. Your Honour, no solicitor has ever had cause to worry in your case. Your Honour has always shown polite and genuine interest in people, and you seem to have been able to manage perfectly well in mastering the intricacies of a matter regardless of the gaps in the brief as delivered. Your Honour's easy interaction with the younger members of the profession has been a great boon to their confidence and has enabled them to grow and mature towards becoming better lawyers under your guidance and mentorship. Your Honour's appointment is particularly pleasing because it sees the continuation of a female presence on the Supreme Court bench. The issue of gender of judicial appointments remains controversial. It's a pity that the appointment of a female judge remains remarkable in the Australian legal system today. It should not be. If there were more women on the Supreme Court benches, perhaps it would not be worthy of remark. But what is especially pleasing about Your Honour's appointment in this context is that Your Honour has never made an issue of it as far as I can discern. Your Honour has always let your work speak for itself, and in so doing you've provided the most sound of arguments for equality in the profession. Your work as a solicitor, partner of a thriving commercial law practice, a commercial litigation barrister, senior counsel and now judge has been a living demonstration that gender need not impose any barrier in the practice of law. It would be naive to think that it does not do so, however, and so Your Honour's appointment stands as a loud encouragement to women in the law to pursue their ambitions to the fullest. Your Honour, the Society recognises the enormous contribution that you've already made to our profession in your years of practice. But importantly today, we also acknowledge the sacrifices that you made in accepting your commission as a judge. Were it not for this appointment, Your Honour had every expectation of a long and distinguished career as one of the leading commercial silks in the Northern Territory. Your Honour enjoys the friendship of many in the profession, and there is no doubt that appointment to the bench makes the continuation of those friendships more difficult. You lose the easy interchange with colleagues that enables new friendships to be formed, and in some ways, appointment has an isolating effect, although perhaps that's just from the perspective of the colleagues left behind. We do not overlook for a moment those sacrifices, and we thank Your Honour for them. The profession is very grateful for your appointment. We're in no doubt that you'll maintain and develop our court's reputation, and therefore our profession's reputation. We offer our warmest congratulations to you and to your family on this great occasion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Justice Kelly.
Your Honour the Administrator, Chief Justice, judges and former judges of this Honourable Court, Mr. Solicitor, President of the Northern Territory Bar Association, President of the Law Society, fellow members of the profession, family and friends, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Solicitor, Mr. Barr and Mr. McConnell for your kind words, for your exceedingly kind words. When Justice Slattery was appointed to the Supreme Court of New South Wales in May of this year, he made these remarks during his welcome ceremonial sitting. He said, and I quote, "The structure of this ceremony affirms a courtesy that is remarkable in the modern day, a courtesy of which I am very mindful. Rarely in the executive, rarely in the legislature, and rarely in the business world do public institutions pause, as this court does today, to welcome not their most senior member, but their most junior member. It does indeed say something special about our court system and the legal profession in general, and the traditions that Justice Thomas spoke of in her speech last week or the week before. And I would like to express my appreciation to the Chief Justice and other members of the court for the welcome that they've given me. Undertaking the duties of a judge of the Supreme Court of the Northern Territory will be a challenge. Having come from a generally commercial background, I realise that for me this will be particularly so in the area of crime, in which to say I have had very little experience is frankly to exaggerate. However, I've been left in no doubt at all that I can count on the guidance and practical assistance of the Chief Justice and the other more experienced members of the court, for which I'm profoundly grateful, and as a result of which I'm looking forward very much to undertaking that challenge. A woman appointed to the bench of a superior court in Australia is, in a way, similar to the experience of a Northern Territory Aboriginal football player chosen to play for St Kilda or Geelong. It's actually not all that similar. there's quite a bit less tackling and kicking and things like that. But we do have this in common, that sooner or later someone asks the question about role models and what does it feel like to be one. Well, I've been very fortunate that throughout my career in the law, and the whole of my life for that matter, I've had excellent role models. When I was a first-year law student, my criminal law tutor was our now Governor-General, the first woman to be appointed to that position, Quentin Bryce. and I was later lucky enough to be in her admin law lectures. Her honour, as she then wasn't, was at that time raising a large family of very small children. This was in the early 70s. Carrying a full-time teaching load at the University of Queensland and involving herself, as she's always done, in various organisations and community affairs. And she always looked, as she still does, as though she'd just stepped off the cover of Vogue. It was enough to make a person give up then and there. But with all that, she still found time to be interested in and to mentor her students, and particularly her women students. Later, as an articled clerk at Morris Fletcher and Cross in Brisbane in 1984 and 5, there were, again, plenty of role models. One of my masters there at Morris Fletcher and Cross was Tony Atkinson, known to all and sundry as Atco. In addition to a fine legal mind and kindness and interest shown towards the article clerks whom he trained and guided, Atco had a distinguished flying cross that he was awarded during World War II for heroism, but while he was stationed here at Darwin. Atco flew Catalinas, big flying boats, out of Darwin up to Ambon and other islands in the north, rescuing Australian and British troops who had been fleeing from the Japanese after the invasion of Singapore. It was a dangerous thing to do, and Atco and the other Catalina pilots saved many lives. Well, as with Her Honour the Governor-General, there are some aspects of every role model that you just can't aspire to. And I should also mention, perhaps, that Atco had a particularly fine moustache. Very RAAF. When I returned to the Territory, which I did before the ink dried on my Queensland admission certificate, I found new role models, including Justice Riley. When I was a solicitor and Justice Riley was at the Barr, I quite naturally briefed him. I remember delivering briefs with very comprehensive observations. Some of them must have been 20 pages, setting out the facts in great detail, analysing the law in even greater detail, expressing the view that we could possibly win on ground X, but ground Y was arguable and there were complicating factors A, B, P, Q and Z. This would all be transformed by Justice Riley into 2 or 3 pages of beautifully analysed submissions in plain, lucid prose. And when we got to court, Mr. Riley QC, as he then was, would stand up and say, "Your Honour, it's very simple." I really wanted to be able to do that. And I don't pretend I ever matched the original, but that was my model from that time on. And one I must say that I commend to young practitioners: read Justice Riley's judgments. Of course, there was Justice Thomas, who just recently retired from the Supreme Court. Although I noticed that the Chief Justice still has her working. I understand she was doing a mediation today, and I'm very grateful that she was able to take the time to be here this afternoon. Justice Thomas has been a role model in so many ways, one of which was simply being there. One cannot overstate the impact on young women lawyers of seeing a person on the bench who is a person like me. At least that was my experience. Seeing the bench occupied by people like me is something young male practitioners, young male lawyers take for granted and therefore may not appreciate. Although these days, little boys in primary school, I think probably similar experience a similar lack of same-sex role models amongst their teachers. And to give an example, my husband Matthew was, until his recent retirement, one of those rare beasts, a male primary school teacher. And he was relief teaching at Stewart Park last year in an infants class, little ones. And as they were going out for recess, a little boy of about 5 grabbed him by the hand, pulled him over to one of the other teachers that he knew well, and said excitedly, "Look what we've got one of." But of course it was not just for being a woman on the bench that Justice Thomas was a role model for me. of my colleagues, both male and female. Her kindness, compassion, fairness and unfailing good humour have been an example to us all. And possibly most importantly for a judge, she listens. No one appearing before Justice Thomas was ever in any doubt that they had been heard, and that's very important. I was actually once, quite briefly, thrilled to be told by a young female practitioner that I had inspired her. I won't name her because I don't want to embarrass her. But when I first met the young lawyer, she was not, in fact, a lawyer. She was a young Aboriginal kid, fresh out of high school, who came to work for my old firm as a junior rounds clerk. Being smart and hardworking, she was quickly promoted and ended up as our accounts manager. And eventually she left to study law at ANU. When she came back to the Territory, I was really pleased and really proud that she'd asked me to move her admission. Well, at the traditional post-admission lunch, the newly admitted young woman lawyer made a speech, and that was the bit where I got to be very briefly thrilled. The young lawyer said that I had inspired her to take up the law. She went on to explain that she used to think you had to have either brains or class to be a lawyer. Then she met me. I guess there's more than one way to be a role model. I thank you all for coming here today. Thank you to my colleagues at the Bar. It's a great life. It's probably the best job on the planet. And I'm going to miss it, and all of you. Although I'm looking forward to continuing to work with you in a slightly different capacity. I would just like to interpose one thing here, if I may. Women are no longer strangers to the bench. There are now 3 out of 7 on the High Court here in the Territory. Our Chief Magistrate is a woman, and there are a number of other women on the bench. Nevertheless, given that something more than 50% of Australian law graduates are now women, it must be said that we're not represented on the benches of superior courts in anything like our numbers in the profession. And one reason for that is that we are underrepresented at the Bar. That's where judges come from, and to have more women on the bench, we need more women at the Bar. But within the Northern Territory Bar, until yesterday at least, I think, there was a higher proportion of women amongst senior counsel than amongst the Bar as a whole. And there are certainly a number of very talented young women barristers working in the Territory. But for some reason, women are not attracted to the Bar in great numbers. And I'd just like to say this, it is a really great life. The work is there. There's plenty of work. You can be far more flexible in your working hours and amount of work you accept than you can be either as an employed solicitor or a principal of a legal firm responsible to other partners. You can work part-time, or you can work yourself to death, as you choose, or anywhere in the spectrum. Speak to Georgia McMaster, who manages to combine a successful practice at the Bar with being a mum and national president of the Women Lawyers Association. It's another role model. Here endeth the lecture, but please consider it. I'm especially glad that my mother could be here today. Speaking of role models, my mother has certainly been a role model. She got her PhD in history at age 80, and from when I was small, she always told me what she'd been told by her own father: you can do anything you set your mind to. And she certainly proved that to be true. I'm also very glad and grateful that my brother Andrew and his wife Lynn were able to be here today, having come up from Dalby in Queensland for today's sitting. And most of all, I would like to thank my husband Matthew and my son Jack for their support, patience and tolerance for the long hours and frequent absences that life at the Bar sometimes brings with it. In addition to being a teacher, Matthew is the head chef, chief homemaker, non-absent parent, responsible role model for our son Jack. They both know, I hope, how grateful I am for their love and support, and how proud I am of them both. I will try to live up to the examples of the numerous role models I've been fortunate enough to have, and I want to adopt the words said by Justice Thomas at her welcoming ceremony. She said, and I adopt them, "I hope most of all that I will be a wise and good judge for the community of the Northern Territory. Justice Thomas achieved what she set out to do. I will try to do the same."
Thank you, Justice Kelly. Thank you for your attendance today. I mention that particularly so that I can say thank you to profession in Alice Springs who've joined us for this ceremony. And I think it's the first time we've had a link to Alice Springs. So it's a pleasure to see them in attendance. I hope they've appreciated it. And I have a special request from Justice Kelly. Would members of the Bar Association please gather on the front steps of the court for the traditional photograph.
Stand.